Welcome to Unbearable. I'm Mike.
And I'm Anna. Really glad you could join us for our new show.
That's right. Here on Unbearable, Anna and I, we're basically going to take a look at some of the news that's, caught our eye recently, and we'll just share our unfiltered kind of common sense reactions, sort of cutting through the noise,
Exactly. And we've got quite a mix for you today. Everything from a really heartwarming moment
Oh, good.
to some pretty significant stuff happening down at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Okay.
Then there's a bit of a social media whirlwind, I guess. Some Hollywood news, beauty industry shakeups, and tech tariffs.
Wow. Okay. Covering a lot of ground.
We are. So why don't we start with that heartwarming one? Get things going on a nice note.
Sounds perfect to me. Let's hear some happy news.
Okay, so this first one, it's a really sweet story out of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
It's about a 9-year-old boy, Noah Kerrigan, and this special bond he formed with his garbage man.
Oh, I think I saw a headline about this. Yeah. Sounded really touching.
It really is. Apparently, for the past 4 years, ever since Noah was 5,
Wow.
he's made it a point to greet the same garbage collector every single Tuesday. It just became their thing.
That's dedication for a kid, isn't it? You can just picture him waiting by the curb.
Totally. His mom, Catherine, she mentioned Noah's just always been fascinated by the big green truck.
I get that. Big trucks are cool when you're little.
Right. So for years, it was this ritual. Noah runs out, waves like crazy, and the garbage man always waved back, always gave a little honk.
That's nice.
His mom even said there's a lot of truck love in their house because Noah's dad is a firefighter.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's those little consistent things, they stick with you.
Exactly. And even as he got older, school and stuff, he still made time for the Tuesday wave.
Good for him.
But here's the sad part. Their local government just switched to a new waste management company.
Ah, so new driver.
Yeah, which meant that March 25th was the last time Noah would see his garbage man friend.
Oh, man. That's tough, especially when it's been part of his routine for so long.
I know, but here's the really heartwarming bit, Mike. How Noah handled it.
Okay.
He actually sat down and wrote the guy a handwritten note.
No way. At 9. That's impressive.
Right. And he gathered up some of his old, really loved garbage truck toys to give him as a thank you gift.
That's incredibly sweet.
And wait, there's more. He also gave him a bottle of water. Just so thoughtful.
Wow. He really thought about it.
Yeah.
That's genuinely kind.
His mom said when they told Noah it was the last time, he didn't even hesitate. Just went straight to get the note and the toys he'd already put aside.
He was ready.
Yeah. She said it was like watching him say goodbye to a part of his childhood. Really beautiful, she said.
I bet.
She put it perfectly. This man had been part of Noah's life for years. It was a friendship built on smiles and waves.
Wow. Okay, that definitely hits you right here.
Ah.
All right, Anna, time for the rating. Unbearable, neutral, or bearable?
Oh, Mike, it's bearable. 1,000% bearable. It's just so pure, Reminds you of simple kindness and those connections you don't expect.
Absolutely with you. Clear bearable for me, too. Just a genuinely lovely story. Makes you feel good.
It really does.
Okay, let's pivot now. We're moving on to some society news. This involves the U.S.-Mexico border, right?
Yeah, that's right, Mike. It's a development that's definitely getting some attention. President Trump is reportedly transferring control of this long, skinny strip of federal land right along the border. It's called the Roosevelt Reservation.
Roosevelt Reservation. Okay, I'm not sure I've heard of that specifically. What is it exactly?
So it's basically this, 60-foot wide zone owned by the federal government, runs all the way from New Mexico to California, mostly.
60 feet. That's really narrow.
Yeah, it's like a buffer. And it used to be under the Interior Department.
Gotcha. And now it's going to the Department of Defense. Why the change?
Well, the plan, as afforded, is for the Army to manage it like part of a military base. And here's the thing. Some reports suggest this could mean troops might be able to detain people who trespass on that specific land, including migrants.
Right. That sounds like it could get complicated legally, doesn't it?
Nice.
With the military involved in detaining people domestically.
Exactly. That's where the debate is heating up. Some are suggesting this might be a way to get around the Posse Comitatus Act.
Okay. Remind us what that is again.
It's that old law generally stops the U.S. military from being used for civilian law enforcement inside the country.
Right.
So the argument, or the theory maybe, is if this land becomes part of an Army base, then detaining trespassers on the base could be seen as, military duty, not civilian law enforcement.
I see the logic they might be using, but it still feels like a significant change in how border enforcement usually works.
For sure. Now, others argue it's not about that at all. They say it's just about giving the military more land for training exercises, which is, always needed.
Okay, so there's that perspective too.
But legal experts are already weighing in. Elizabeth Goteen, she's an expert on presidential powers. She thinks this is pretty likely going to get challenged in court. She mentioned something called the military purpose doctrine.
Military purpose doctrine. What's that?
Basically, it allows law enforcement stuff on military bases if it's sort of secondary or incidental to a real military purpose.
Okay.
Gotein's point is that the main reason for transferring this land seems to be border security, not some other military goal. So is border security really incidental here?
That sounds like the key legal question then.
Yeah.
Is border security the main point or just a side effect of some other military activity on that land?
Exactly. She thinks it might be tough to argue in court that there is a separate military purpose here, totally distinct from border control.
Makes sense. So what happens next? Is this already happening?
Well, apparently the plan is for a 45-day test run. It'll be in a section of the reservation in New Mexico, near an existing Army base in Arizona.
A trial period? What will they do during the test?
They're going to add more fencing, put up signs warning against trespassing.
Okay.
And they've clarified, apparently, that if soldiers do detain anyone, like migrants, on that land, they'll immediately turn them over to civilian law enforcement, like Border Patrol or IC.
Ah, okay. So the military isn't doing the processing or anything like that, just the initial detention on that specific strip of land.
That seems to be the plan for this test phase, yeah.
Right. Interesting development. Okay, Anna, your rating. Unbearable, neutral, or bearable?
This one feels neutral for me, Mike. There are just like too many legal questions swirling around.
Yeah.
And it really could change how things are done at the border. I feel like we need to see how this test plays out and what the courts say, you know? What about you?
I'm actually leaning unbearable on this one. I get the training argument, potentially, but the main thrust really feels like border enforcement using the military. And I just have some reservations about that, even with the handoff to civilian agencies. It feels like blurring lines.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, let's shift again. Social media news next. This involves Taylor Lorenz.
Yes, this story definitely made some waves online recently. Taylor Lorenz, she's an independent journalist.
Right.
She did an interview, and this one clip about Luigi Mangione just sort of blew up, especially on X.
Luigi Mangione, okay, refresh my memory. Who is he again?
He's the 26-year-old guy who was charged with the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson back in December.
Ah, right. That was a huge story. Very serious charges.
Extremely serious. Federal stalking, terrorism. And Attorney General Pam Bondi said she's seeking the death penalty, called it premeditated, cold-blooded.
Okay, yeah. Definitely a heavy case. So what did Lorenz say about him that caused such a stir?
Well, in this clip that went viral, she called Mangione a revolutionary and a morally good man.
Wait, what? A revolutionary, morally good about someone charged for that?
Yeah. She also said things like, he's famous, handsome, young, smart, and even that finding a morally good man is hard.
Wow. Okay, those are startling descriptions, given the context.
They really are. And the reaction online was pretty intense, very negative.
I can imagine.
Yeah, people pointing at the impact on Thompson's family. Piers Morgan called Mangione a cold-blooded killer. Just really strong responses.
Understandable. It seems like a massive disconnect between those words and the alleged crimes.
Totally. And this whole thing has also kind of dredged up some past controversies involving Lorenz.
Oh.
Like what?
Well, people brought up her defense of Amber Heard, during and after the Johnny Depp trial.
Right.
And also, there's that lawsuit filed against her in the New York Times back in 2022 by an entrepreneur, Ariadne Jacob.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing something about a lawsuit. What was that about?
Jacob ran a business representing TikTok stars, influencers.
Okay.
And she sued, claiming a story Lorenz wrote for the Times was defamatory and basically ruined her career. Sought a lot of damages.
Did anything come of that?
Well, the first version got dismissed, I think, but Jacob filed an amended complaint. Said she had new evidence, new details.
And what were the allegations in the new version? Pretty serious stuff. Claiming Lorenz, while at the Times, basically bullied Jacob's clients into making false statements against her.
What?
To use in an article about the influencer industry. One claim was that Jacob leaked nude photos of an influencer, which Jacob strongly denies.
Okay.
The lawsuit alleges Lorenz and the Times knew some claims were false or had information contradicting them, but published anyway.
That's a heavy accusation against a journalist and a major publication.
It is. Jacob's lawyer, Harmeet Dillon, has been very vocal, called Lorenz a one-woman wrecking crew who attacks people on the rise, claims Lorenz got facts proving Jacob's innocence but ignored them, and then used social media to damage her business further.
So the amended suit includes defamation, messing with business relationships, emotional distress, that kind of thing.
Sounds like it, yeah. So these comments about Mangione, they haven't just caused a reaction on their own.
Right.
They've also brought all this other stuff back into the conversation about her reporting methods.
Got it. Okay, Anna, rating time for this whole situation. Unbearable, neutral, or bearable?
Oh, this is squarely unbearable for me, Mike. Wow. regardless of opinions, calling someone facing those charges morally good and a revolutionary, it feels incredibly insensitive, especially to the victim's family.
Yeah.
And then having it tangled up with these past allegations about her journalism, it just makes the whole thing feel really problematic. What do you think?
I'm right there with you. Absolutely unbearable. The comments themselves are jarring. Just given the sheer gravity of the case against Mangione, it feels really disconnected from reality.
Agreed.
Okay, let's shift again. Entertainment news now. Johnny Depp's making a comeback to the big screen.
Looks like it, yeah. Lionsgate just put out a first-look photo of him from his new movie. It's called Day Drinker.
Day Drinker. Okay, what's the look?
Well, in the picture, he's got, like, longer gray hair, kind of pulled back, full gray beard, wearing a suit, gold ring, holding a cocktail.
Sounds like a potentially interesting character look, maybe a bit world-weary.
Yeah, could be. Distinguished, maybe a little rough around the edges. We'll see.
So what's the movie actually about?
The plot apparently centers on a bartender, played by Madeline Klein.
Okay, from Outer Banks.
Yeah, her. She works on a private yacht, meets Depp's character, who's this mysterious guest, and then somehow they get tangled up with a criminal figure played by Penelope Cruz.
Oh, interesting. Depp and Cruz together again. They've worked together before, haven't they?
They have. This is going to be their fourth film together. They did Below, one of the Pirates movies.
On Stranger Tides, yeah.
Right, and Murder on the Orient Express. So they definitely have on-screen history.
That could be good chemistry. Who's directing?
Mark Webb, he did 500 Days of Summer.
Oh, okay. Good movie.
Yeah. And he's doing the new live-action Snow White, too, I think. He sounds really pumped about Day Drinker. Said the location's beautiful, great crew, and the story is thrilling and ferocious.
High praise from the director.
Yeah, he seems excited about the whole cast, too. Besides Depp, Klein, and Cruz, it's got Monty Rios, Aaron Piper, some others.
Sounds like a solid cast overall.
Yeah.
Any other big names behind the scenes? Production company?
Let's see. 30 West is involved. Lionsgate is presenting it. Thunder Road and N.2 are producing. Looks like a pretty well-backed project. Got experienced people doing cinematography, production design, editing, costumes.
Okay, so it seems like a serious production, not just a small indie flick. Any word on when it might come out?
Yeah, not yet. But since they're filming now and releasing photos, probably means we'll hear more soonish. Lionsgate seems to be putting some weight behind it.
Well, it'll definitely get people talking, seeing Depp back in a major role. All right, Anna, rating. Unbearable, neutral, or bearable for this news?
You know, I'm going to go neutral on this one for now, Mike. The premise sounds okay, maybe, and the cast and director are solid. But, you know, it all comes down to how the movie actually turns out. The story, the performances. So I'm kind of curious, but not fully sold yet. Cautiously neutral, maybe? You?
Yeah, I'm landing on neutral, too. It's definitely notable that he's back in a feature like this, and the setup could be interesting. But, like you said, gotta wait and see the final film.
Agreed.
Okay, next up, fashion news. Something about Blake Lively's hair care line.
Yeah, Blake Brown. It's her line that's sold only at Target. And it seems like they've had to slash prices pretty significantly recently.
Oh, really? Like big discounts. Why is that?
Well, the timing is interesting because, as you probably know, Blake's been in the headlines a lot because of that really messy legal fight with Justin Baldoni.
Right, the harassment and extortion accusations, which she denies, that whole thing.
Exactly. And the speculation, or the reporting anyway, is that all that negative attention might be hitting her brand sales hard.
The celebrity connection curse sometimes, when personal stuff bleeds over.
Seems like it could be happening here. Reports say sales might be, well, disappointing. Target's apparently doing this 50% off deal for their Circle members if they buy one thing full price.
Half price is a pretty big incentive. Usually means they need to move product, right?
Usually. And there was even this like blind item gossip thing going around suggesting sales are so bad that Target might end up selling off the leftover stock to like discount stores or thrift shops.
Wow, that would be a major blow for a brand that launched exclusively at Target.
For sure. And Fortune.com actually put a number on it, claiming sales have dropped almost 78% since the lawsuit stuff started heating up.
78%, that's huge.
It is. Yeah. And it's not just sales figures. Some user reviews online haven't been great either. There was one user at Jubilee Dawns who said the product made her hair feel like straw and basically told people not to buy it.
Ouch. Especially for a hair care line from someone, you know, known for having great hair. That's not the review you want.
Not at all. Meanwhile, the legal battle just keeps going. Baldoni's side is accusing her of extortion and manipulation.
Right.
And her side is accusing him of trying to silence victims and misuse the legal system. Ryan Reynolds is involved, too. Baldoni's fighting his attempt to get dismissed.
Man, it sounds incredibly nasty and complicated.
It really does. Lively's team is using a California law that protects statements about harassment. Baldoni's suing his ex-publicist over leaked texts. The judge is telling them to cool it with the media stuff.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right. And maybe even move the trial up from March 2026. So it's just ongoing and very public.
So serious accusations flying both ways, a complicated legal mess, and in the middle of it, her hair care brand seems to be tanking.
That's the picture, yeah. Bad press, potentially bad reviews.
It's a tough combo for Blake Brown right now.
Okay, Anna. Rating time. Unbearable, neutral, or bearable?
This feels pretty unbearable, Mike. You never like to see a business struggle, obviously.
Right.
But the mix of really poor reported sales, negative reviews, and this incredibly toxic legal fight swirling around it,
Yeah.
it's just not a positive story. What about you?
Yeah, I have to agree. It's unbearable. The reported numbers are bad, the alleged product issues are bad, and the legal situation is just awful. Hard to see any upside here right now.
All right, last topic for today. Let's talk AI and tech. Looks like there's been a move on tariffs for electronics from China.
Yes, that's right. The Trump administration has apparently granted some exclusions from those really high tariffs that were placed on certain electronics imported from China.
Exclusions. On what kind of stuff?
Things like smartphones, computers, laptops, some other related electronics. It's a pretty big deal, potentially.
Yeah, that sounds significant. Who stands to benefit the most?
Well, definitely big tech companies that rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing. Think Apple, primarily. Getting exclusions means lower import costs for them on these specific items.
Okay. How did China react? Are they happy about this?
They basically called it a small step, acknowledged it, but said the U.S. needs to cancel all the tariffs. They used this phrase, the bell on a tiger's neck can only be untied by the person who tied it.
Ah, okay, so not exactly thrilled, still want more.
Pretty much. They see it as the U.S. needing to fix its own wrong practice.
Gotcha. So what specific products got the exclusion? Is it everything tech?
No, it's a specific list. U.S. Customs published the tariff codes. It covers things like computers, laptops, disk drives, semiconductor devices, memory chips, flat panel displays. Quite a range.
But not all electronics.
Right. And the official notice didn't really explain why these specific items were chosen for exclusion.
Interesting. And does this mean all tariffs are gone for these items?
No, apparently it only applies to those reciprocal tariffs that Trump imposed, which had reportedly jumped way up, maybe even to 125%, according to one official.
Wow, 125%.
Yeah, but it doesn't remove the earlier 20% duties on Chinese imports, the ones linked to fentanyl concerns. Those stay.
Okay, so it's complicated. Some tariffs off, some still on.
Right. And the same official also mentioned a new national security investigation into semiconductors is coming soon, which could lead to new tariffs later.
So give with one hand, potentially take with the other later.
Could be. It's definitely not a clear, simple rollback.
How are analysts seeing this? Is it good news for tech stocks?
Dan Ives at Wedbush called it the most bullish news we could have heard this weekend for big tech.
Really? That's strong.
Yeah, he thinks companies like Apple, NVIDIA, Microsoft can breathe a big sigh of relief, at least for now, because those super high tariffs would have been crippling.
Yeah, I remember seeing estimates of how much iPhones could have cost if those tariffs really hit, like huge price jumps.
Exactly. At 125%, some thought trade in those things might just stop. And remember, smartphones and laptops were top U.S. imports from China last year, so this affects a massive amount of trade.
And we've seen companies like Apple trying to move production elsewhere too, right? Like India.
Definitely. Apple's been boosting production in India, even flying iPhones in directly from there recently. That's likely all part of trying to manage these tariff risks. Supply chains are adapting.
It's a tricky balance, isn't it? President Trump has talked about wanting lower prices, but also uses tariffs as a tool in trade negotiations.
Yeah, there seem to be competing goals. The administration also talks a lot about onshoring critical tech manufacturing, bringing it back to the U.S.
Right. Mentioning Apple, NVIDIA, Taiwan semiconductor building stuff here.
But these exemptions kind of suggest they also realize hitting consumers with massive price hikes from tariffs isn't great either, especially for inflation.
So maybe trying to find a middle ground. Protect some industries, realign trade, but not completely tank the consumer economy.
Seems like that might be the tightrope they're walking. And all this is happening with worries about a potential economic slowdown, plus some pushback on tariffs even from within the Republican Party.
Yet Trump seems pretty committed to the tariff strategy overall.
He said publicly he's comfortable with high tariffs, believes it'll work out with China in the end. It's definitely created a lot of uncertainty and market swings, though.
For sure. A really dynamic and impactful situation. Okay, final rating of the day. Unbearable, neutral, or bearable for these tariff exclusions?
I'm going to have to land on neutral again for this one, Mike. On the one hand, yes, it's relief for tech companies, maybe helps consumers avoid massive price spikes right now. But it feels like just one move in a much bigger, very unpredictable game. The threat of new investigations, new tariffs. It doesn't feel like stable, long-term good news. Just a temporary adjustment, maybe? What's your take?
I'm with you on neutral. It's positive in the immediate sense for the specific products and companies involved.
Yeah.
But the lack of sort of a clear long-term strategy and the fact that other tariffs remain plus new ones could be coming, it just feels very unsettled. Doesn't quite reach bearable for me.
Yeah, unsettled is a good word for it.
All right, well, Anna, that wraps up the stories we dove into for this edition of Un-Bearable.
Thanks, Mike. That was quite a range.
It really was, and thank you all for tuning in. Going through everything from that sweet story about Noah to these complex trade issues, it really makes you think, doesn't it? About how disconnected things might actually connect, or what bigger trends are hiding underneath.
Absolutely. And maybe something to ponder is, in this world where we get so much information in little bursts, headlines, social media clips, how do we make sure we're actually grasping the real complexity underneath it all, especially with things like online personas versus reality, like with the Lorenz story?
That's a great question. Definitely something to chew on. We'd love to hear what you think. What are your unbearable, neutral, or bearable ratings? Let us know wherever you chat about news.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
We'll be up soon with more unbearable takes. Until then.
Take care, everyone.